All right, thanks for my two viewers for joining. I'll be turning the camera on in just a minute. Look at this. This is kind of cool, right? All right, y'all. So, this vehicle, point of contention in a way. Part of what's so terrible about this, my name has been on the title since the day that it was purchased. I wanted to finance it in my name, and that's the thing. The dealership was kind of terrible about this, and I didn't. It's a long story. I'll have to tell it again. I'll probably go into that more when I'm back, at my workstation, which I showed yesterday to anybody. That's the thing, right? It's like I didn't even publish those VODs, and so when it comes down to it, part of what's complicated about all of this, I'm just mindful about what I say. They've taken advantage of that this whole time. They knew that I produce a lot of content, honestly, even like all this time. How do I put it? All right. So I'm not sure why that just went down. For example, I did not do anything. Let's see. 2 viewers, stream manager. Okay. Now let's back up. All right. I've watched streamers in like other countries, right? And they're, it's a process. Most people have to have a couple phones. I'm that kind of, let me emphasize that. I'm the kind of person that I have to have multiple phones for my job. Like, you have multiple, really, you have a work phone, you have a personal phone. It's kind of like, it shouldn't be something that anybody considers sketchy, especially anybody that knows anything about technology or cyber. Like, that's not a sketchy thing. And on top of that, I do basically like product reviews, even without products that I've used or purchased myself. And how do I do that? Well, I really, really appreciate, the materials that other YouTubers and publishers put out there. Because when it comes down to it, it is actually relevant at the end of the day that, well, how do I put it best? Like, we have to look out for one another. And the honest to God truth is, this is one of those real cover-ups. Like, there's no other way to put it. They victimize innocent people trying to say that I'm the one, and they're sitting there, as I've explained repeatedly, staring down at a map like it's fucking Flatland, if anybody's familiar with Flatland. I kind of love the concept, right? Because Flatland is really relevant in terms of, multiple dimensions. He basically, in the stories, he interacts with something different than he's ever seen before. These people, that's what's kind of dumb. They knew I was different in a good way, and then they tried to just break reality about who I am as a human being. So here I am back where I was born. I'm walking barefoot the way that I used to in this neighborhood, and it's kind of like, in a way, I've been so happy to be back here. It's not that I needed to be here or live here or any of that kind of stuff, but frankly, the weather in Texas, I was the only one who didn't like the heat. Everyone else is like, yeah, it's so much better. Like, I'm not mad at them about that part. It's whatever. They didn't really, I guess, care about my preference. But more relevant is the kind of the social context. I had a lot of friends here. And I was even saying at the time, I was like, to my mom, I was like, I'm just worried that, how are we ever going to come back? And she was like, no, we will. And she was very assertive about that. We never did. Literally. It's actually kind of horrible. My own family up here, who I love very much, even though they're all kind of, well, not kind of, they're psychopathically lying about me because of the political and social aspects of this, and they just don't know better. They actually just don't know better, right? I didn't have any opportunity to visit them. I missed a cousin's wedding. Look how terrible this is. My grandfather, whose house, that they committed this hate crime, literally. I'm not claiming that, cutting down that tree the way that they did, trying to bring it right down and where I'm working, that is a hate crime. It's a violent felony. It's a hate crime. And, he used to be a foreman of a construction company here in Dover. And, to be honest with you, it's like, is that really a huge deal? No. I mean, it's a very humble, small business, It's like, my father worked for him as a carpenter for a long time. My father always loved carpentry, you would say, and then later he was a science teacher, and then he became an administrator. And I've never had any issue with anybody, whatever choice they make about their career field or any of that. It's like, quite frankly, I didn't ever want to talk about family, but for my family to sit around subjecting me to this objectively illegal systematic abuse and then trying to act like I have to live with it when it's being used to frame me, right? And they're sitting around ignoring that. It's like, people like Michael Brumback, it's like, he's not a good friend, he's never been a good friend before all of this. For them to turn around and be like, oh, he's your buddy, and they weaponize welfare checks against you, and then my own family, my own mom, it's illegal. She calls in a welfare check because she's sitting there watching me, and because I've told her I need space, and you're being abusive, and you simply refuse to, acknowledge that that's not legal. And there's so much more than that, right? But you can't even have a conversation when she's going to lie to me like a psychopath, as she did repeatedly, and already documented that legally. I'm saying, no, I don't mean recorded her. I mean that, even our conversations, texting, phone calls, all that kind of stuff. Look how terrible that is. It's actually so despicably evil, quite frankly. And so I mean it, y'all. Look how public now I have to be just to defend the truth and defend myself. It's actually so horrible. It's so genuinely horrible. So I'm actually just gonna go straight down to the house I was at, and I'm going back. It's not gonna be a long walk, but when it comes down to it, look how beautiful it is here. I know it's cloudy today. It is cloudy, but the weather is really nice in my opinion. How do I put it best? I didn't want to start streaming this way, and there's so much more context yet I have to provide, and even then, the basic amount of truth that I've shared thus far, that's what I can't understand at all. They're like, the DEA does not realize that it's already too late. It's already way past too late, and not for me to be publishing. Actually, that's the whole thing, is that no matter what, I'll publish. Every time they're trying to prevent me from publishing, I'm just going to publish more publishing, and there is no silencing me, especially after all of this felony crime that's been committed and just victimized me relentlessly. Now, it kind of gets complicated, because when it comes down to it, I don't want to, right now I'd have reached out to a lot of old friends sooner. But see, I don't want to put anyone in a position where they're kind of like, oh, well, we chose your family, we participated in this human rights violation, with reckless abandon, and now, that's the thing. I've noticed that the polarization in our country since long ago, that's what I've been drawing attention to. The reason I'm apolitical, the reason I'm anti-radical, is because we have a lot of radicalism that's become a problem, and I didn't want to have to talk about that, to be honest. And eventually I would really like to reach out to a lot of those friends and explain, look, this was actually a real corruption case. I've had to provide my federal testimony in live streams. There's my old house right there in that one. I don't want to point at it too much, y'all, because it's not my house anymore. And I know that, I'm not a territorial person in any way, shape, or form. It's honest to God truth. If I someday, I'm not the kind of person that really even wants to own multiple, homes, but I would buy that house. Again, it's I'm not trying to take it from somebody. They probably love it and enjoy it. It looks like it's been taken pretty well care of, in my opinion. It's not bad at all. I'm trying to leave the plate out there, right? But really, that's it. I'm going to turn around now and go back. I think for me to watch this happen, even that with the internet yesterday, I've got to go look. I've got to get into that router now, which is, it's not even a great, it's the ISP provided router. If I had, I do have one other backup, even beside my phone, and I will use that if I need to. But that's where it's just wow, look how open I'm being about, I've said from the beginning to them, it's I'm actually, there is no covering up what you've done here. I knew way back then, even the day that I'm creating a feedback loop in a call that's recorded for a Google Meet, it's relevant, quite frankly, that, how do I put it best? It's relevant that I knew at that moment, this is so serious. they're trying really to actively, I'm going back, I'm looking at the recording of that, and it's edited. I'm like, wait a second, it's like, that's not kind of a little bit of public corruption. That's like, wow. That means they're abusing their federal keys to try to prevent even a meeting that is at my job. That's what I'm trying to emphasize. I'm just doing my job throughout this entire process. And they're trying to prevent me even from doing my job, which is so illegal. It's overtly so illegal. Like, it's not mental illness. I can prove what I'm saying is my point. And that's what I've been telling them from the beginning. Like, they know for a fact. Some people in my neighborhood right now, I'm wearing a yellow shirt, right? It's like they might see me like, wow, a yellow shirt, barefoot guy with sweatpants on. He's walking, I need a haircut right now. I'm poor. I'm so, like, that's the whole thing is so despicable about this narrative. Is like, they're like, yeah, we will blow millions and millions and millions of tax dollars, not their tax dollars, not my tax dollars, but our tax dollars. And for anyone right now to feel defensive of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration in this, y'all, you're choosing. You understand that it's actually not a claim. They're going to have to pay out millions and millions of dollars now. And I never wanted their money. That's what's so terrible. I never wanted their money in there, no matter what, especially every single act of censorship, illegal censorship they commit further. They're just piling onto those damages because they've already committed so much reckless crime. They violated HIPAA laws with reckless abandon. It is literally, it's defined, it's classified as illegal modern slavery. It's a real modern slavery case. It's bonded labor or debt bondage. And, for me, it's like, wow, how terrible. Like, really, I don't know why anybody thought this shit was okay. Again, it's like, it sucks that it's so relevant, y'all, but during the Trump administration, the Department of Justice was clearly just out of fucking control. It's like, that's part of why I'm having to do journalism about Trump now. It's like, look at how, psychopathic in his doublespeak he actually is. No one should be in support of this man who is Epstein's like buddy, y'all. That little black book, we're gonna be talking about that tonight. Like, if you're someone that's against human trafficking and sex trafficking, that's my point. I am too. I was just not very loud, y'all, before. Like, I am really, really deeply fucking against that shit. I'll be outspoken as fuck, y'all, especially now the way this shit's gone for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be so like, I'm gonna help. That's the point, y'all. I protect. And I care about our country. I care about, people's safety. I care about people's privacy. And what I've seen for a long time is just, it's not casting shade at anybody, especially, companies, for example. It's like data is just a big picture conversation. As with many things in life, legislation lags behind, right? Technology, like Discord, right? They build a service. It's basically just a front end on an open source audio codec. It's kind of that simple. There's really nothing else to it. And so it's kind of like, you have other companies out there like Lyft and DoorDash who they get tickets, right? When they're seeing that I'm hitting accept on a ride, right? In a lot of those cases, then I'm submitting feedback to them to make sure, right? Not every single one. And that's what's so horrible about this context is that I can't. There's no way for me to physically, like how many times are they pulling this shit? How many rides? There's like, wow, this navigation is fucked up. I have to cancel, right? It's like, they're trying to prevent me from making $3, $4, $5. Talk about wasted tax dollars. Y'all, those are agents getting paid in excess at the very least of $65,000 a year. And they're sitting there spending hours upon hours upon hours committing violent hate crime, trying to cover up for agents who have committed violent hate crime. They're deploying tools like Pegasus that, our government, we, not them. That's the whole point. It's like, they don't pay for that shit. I don't pay for that shit. Like, all of us, like the public, we're the ones that pay for that shit. And so for us to kind of pretend like that's okay, it's like, it's not just like kind of sort of beyond ridiculous, like, I think part of my issue is that actually, I wonder if, well, I'm not going to go over there right now. I just don't want people to be sketched out, y'all. Otherwise, I would go over to the church there and show where my cousins and I, when they didn't hate me and believe a bunch of psychopathic lies about me and also try to contribute. We used to ride our bikes over there a lot. It's so horrible, y'all. My whole entire life fucking destroyed by public corruption, real public corruption, and my own family just hates me right now, and they don't even know how deep this goes. That's the problem. They just actually don't know better, and that's what I'm saying. I didn't want anybody's money, but this isn't even about me anymore. They've destroyed my entire life, and never for a moment am I going to sit around and watch a bunch of people try to lie about me more, committing more hate crimes, trying to bring a fucking tree down onto the top of my head, fuck up the house that my grandfather built. And it's not a prideful thing, as I keep saying. It's really just about, look how fucking despicable. The 2 viewers that are still here, I appreciate your company. I really mean it when I say, so long as you follow those rules, you're welcome. You're welcome here. And I don't mean you're welcome like this is some amazing content, yo. What I'm saying is this is where I'm at. I would be doing a really technical job had we obeyed the law here, and no one for a moment really wants to, hear the music, see the forest for the trees. At some point, local authorities got to stop being loyal fucking slave puppets to a federal law enforcement agency that is just completely out of control. Oh yeah, no, we hate you because, they were already fucking terrible to you. They subjected you to relentless illegal modern slavery, and that was never a claim in any way, shape, or form. We're just gonna do the same shit, same shit. Oh my God, y'all, at what point do we kind of understand? That's a really beautiful tree, isn't it? But again, y'all, the reason I know it's probably not that exciting, I'm kind of pointing at the ground mostly. You're okay, I'm barefoot, right? The reason I am is because I don't want to get people's plates. And I'm not even saying that really, y'all. It's you see other streamers walking around cities, and I'll be honest, I'm not trying to be mean to them. They're not exactly particularly mindful of it sometimes, right? It's kind of one of those things, though. I'm saying in the future, so one of the things I think about, it'd be awesome, if we could blur out plates with AI. I was wow, that's a big picture concept for sure. Blur out plates, blur out, addresses, that's what I'm saying, we got to think about these concepts in the lens of the bigger picture more, because it's there should be a reasonable balance, really, there actually should be, it actually, there's a lot of tools that we can use, like AI, to help solve a lot of these problems. And that's kind of, part of what I've always been presenting, I guess, in the long term with the content that I create. I know a lot of people locally even, what have they heard about me? What do they know? Well, see, I'm just I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but even that's what I'm saying is I would have walked over to that church right now. Somebody pulled up in their driveway, and I don't want her to feel sketched out. Why is he going over to the church when he's filming on his phone? I'm not mentally ill. I'm just conscious. I'm aware. People that's the thing. That's the reason I wanted to do a full-time remote job right now. You know what I'm saying? It's such a reasonable ask as well. That's what's so terrible. It's no, he was already subjected to illegal slavery, more illegal slavery. Oh my God, yo, when are you gonna realize how many fucking people already owe damages? They owe me so much more than an apology, quite frankly. That's what's kind of terrible. So I'm gonna mute for a moment while we go inside here, just a sec. Check out this chair. Isn't this? Okay, this has been a point of contention, I will say, I'm sure. Let me turn this down a little bit. One sec. Okay, what I'm saying is that this is to help other people and myself. This is all this is. This is a battery jumper. I got it off of Amazon. Like, all right, I'm not an Amazon like super fanboy or anything, y'all, but I just, for a long time, speaking of tech, I'm a smart shopper, and well, I'll be honest, Amazon has opened up a lot of options. Like, I really mean it. You can research shopping options, and they're a great, kind of price comparison tool. So it's, again, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I know Twitch is, it's kind of an Amazon owned service, right? But really, it's just like, it's weird for me because, I'm not some, I'll be honest, the narrative in this, people want to act like I'm like, oh, you just want a bunch of gadgets. Well, it's like, no, I'm kind of like a really, really helpful, protective, educated person, and not overly protective, right? But like, my initials are CPS. That should have been relevant for anybody, I'll be honest, Anyway, I do actually mean it when I say that I've helped multiple people with this. And one of the times, I'll be honest, I think she knew who I was. I'm not saying it was on purpose. I think she knew who I was when, she walked into a place. It's kind of complicated to explain, right? But really, there was a lot of times before all of this in Austin where I really helped people out with this because, it's like I see them on the side of the road. I'm just going, hey, do you and it's not any weird thing, y'all. I'll be honest. I'm not going to say which one, but I had a member, a genetic relative. He was always about helping people no matter what, and that's kind of what my whole life, his mentality of don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, right? Like don't be afraid of people, it really, we when we're too overly fearful and paranoid, we cause people, we push people in this position where, that they end up alienated, and that's kind of what's weird about this. I have been definitely, intentionally now, very illegally, dehumanized and alienated. Now, this chair, I'll be honest, it's like, it was in the office that my genetic relative uses. And I do think there's a really cool design, but I'll be honest, it's so comfortable. And I'm trying not to, I'm going to pick up a little bit more, but like, whew, it's so comfortable. It actually is, and sometimes it is enjoyable to rock back and forth, right? It's like, I'll be honest, I'm not sure, I've been saying, it's like, we kind of probably put that in storage. There's a lot in this house, so like, these curtains are all ripped up. I love this pillow. I do have to say, I'm not even, like, honestly, in general, I'm not necessarily like a big flower design person, but I do love the color of blue on this. I really mean that. This, frankly, I was kind of shocked to see this. I did not do this, of course. I'm saying I walked in this, I'm kind of like, it's not like I'm doing an inspection, but when I got here, I was like, what? Who the hell did that? Just left it? Like, I'm guessing it was not intentional, but, it is kind of horrible in a way. I do like the design of this carpet as well, right? But this is my temporary setup, y'all. It's not a fire hazard, I promise. I've been very mindful of the surge protector here, and I know a couple times I've gotten frustrated. Oh, see now, and it fell. It's just this one cable. It's not actually breaking anything. That one cable, when it gets loose, it turns the light off, and that's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, like, I'm not destroying anything, y'all, banging the keyboard a little bit. I'm frustrated about, ridiculous, illegal modern slavery, right? And I'm actually not claiming that. That's what's so terrible. I'll keep saying it over and over and over and over and over again. This is what these people don't understand. This is my life now. I'm going to stream 24 hours a day. I'm a educated, intellectual human being, and what they've done to me is overtly, ridiculously illegal. It is absolutely so illegal. Now, I will mention I found this outside. Yeah, okay, no, this is not about trees. This is about the tree that was cut down in a violent hate crime. Let's go look at that again just for a moment. There's nothing else to call that than what it is. That is a violent felony hate crime. It's the local authorities, like, it's so weird to me because I'll be honest, they're just kind of like, oh yeah, we want to go to prison. like really, every moment they don't arrest the men involved in this. And yes, there was a couple, but that's the thing, y'all. It's like, you go back here. The first day this thing fell, I come out here and I'm like, wow, those are fucking salt marks. Actually, these are really the same salt marks, y'all. It's like, wow, look how fucking despicable. If an insurance company actually came and looked at this, that's the first thing they'd be saying, wait a minute, this is not the result of a storm. This is a crime. This is a violent crime. Because again, I want to emphasize this tree leaned way this direction. It would have fallen way over here if it even did fall naturally. And instead it was cut to fall right the fuck here, and which is where I've been sitting, y'all, my temporary desk setup. Look at that fucking crime scene, you know? It's like, how terrible that anybody would want to try to ignore that shit. I'm posting publicly and explaining, like, y'all, every moment you don't arrest that man, you're piling on the charges for yourselves. You actually are. And local authorities, anybody that's monitoring my stuff, not saying you are, I'm not saying you are, but like, I'm actually not kidding at all, y'all. It's not mental illness. It doesn't matter. Let me emphasize. The opinion of anyone in my family is irrelevant right now. They've already lied like fucking psychopaths, y'all. They're already lying to you. So you got to realize that actually you're legally obligated to address that shit as well. It doesn't, personal opinion is irrelevant. And I guess that's the thing, y'all. We got to get away from the personal subjective opinion. I like this thing. I will say, I'm going to try to fix it, y'all, because it's kind of like stuck a little bit. So when you rock back and forth, it's kind of, I'm a fixing, not a fixer, y'all. Like, fucking, Trump has a bunch of fixers, the family have a bunch of fixers. This is the result of a fucking fixer, basically. They're like, now we got to fix this shit, a bunch of illegal public corruption, like, what the hell, y'all? Oh my God. To my one consensual viewer, so long as you follow the rules, I appreciate your company. I will say, like I mentioned repeatedly, it's kind of a one-way thing right now. It's more for public record. Look how terrible, these people have used technology. Oh, thank you, second consensual viewer. Thank you very much for obeying the law and joining. I mean it when I say, this is a crime scene right here. Not for me. This was intended to, kill me. Or, that's the thing. They see it as like a, quote, win-win. My grandfather built this home, literally. And, it's actually so terrible that they're, anyone in my family would try to act like it's okay. Really. Because two things, y'all. Not only were they intending to destroy, this section of the house to some extent, but they were hoping, they know I stay up late a lot of times. They were hoping to actually kill me, like in real life. And now, I mean it, like, I will be on camera, y'all, face on camera a little bit more. It's like, I need a haircut right now. I just said that's what's been abused this whole time. One federal law enforcement agency, they just do not want to, obey the law. And the only reason they're censoring me at this point is that they know, and it's not at this point like they haven't been this whole time, they know for a fact that what they've done is heinously wrong. They've committed hate crime after hate crime after hate crime. They wouldn't be streaming to a fucking Discord server from a surveillance tool that's really intended for the military if they were ever obeying the law in the first place. No real professionals are ever going to do that shit for a moment. That shit is not just not legal. That is such a fucking human rights violation. Okay, so this is one thing, y'all. I put Chuck on the spot about this. I don't want to have to live stream that shit. You understand? That's the thing. Like, I obey the law unlike fucking any of these people. That's what's so terrible. I'm going to go pick this up on live stream because I don't even know where the hell this came from, right? I'm going to throw it in the trash, okay? I mean it that I don't know where it came from. This is part of the thing. Like, I'm actually, okay, so this concept, y'all, behind the inner curtain, I have a bunch of videos I've recorded that go straight into the cloud and that I've not published. And there's a reason for that. Now, this video I'm going to publish, right? Yesterday, I wasn't, they took down the internet, literally. I'm not claiming. That was not the internet company. That was DEA. I'm in the middle of a broadcast about this. Right? I'm going to cover up the plate, hopefully for a moment there. I will say, y'all, shout out Mazda. Let me emphasize about this vehicle. I never for a moment wanted a vehicle that it looks fancier than it is. Let me emphasize that. It looks fancier than it is. I was looking for a beat-up Corolla or a beat-up Camry, and I'll be honest, it was really kind of my father who's like, no, this is the better deal objectively. It had, around 75,000 miles on it. We're looking at Corollas and Camrys that, I don't really care about the way that a car looks, but they were older, they were way more damaged, and they were actually $3,000 to $4,000 more. And this car was about $7,500, a little bit less than that actually, which I'll be honest with you, y'all. I mean, it's all relative. is that exactly an expensive vehicle? Well, that's the thing. It's all relative, right? I think it's actually terrible that, the only reason I've missed any payments was because my own family volunteered to sell me into slavery, quite literally. Why they're okay with that, I could never fucking tell you. Because it was never okay. They were ignoring the fact that my loan was in good standing, and it was clearly public corruption. That was the reason that, a loan was gone after in the first place. It was a corrupt district attorney in Austin. The loan was, like I said, all payments were up to date. Everything was good. It's like I'm working my ass off. I'm making good money, right? There's a helicopter, yo. Yeah, say hello. Say hello. No, okay. That is a joke. But, for example, there's a lot of notice around the house here. It's like, I'd like to help clean up some of this. My grandmother used to love gardening very much. And it's just kind of, right now at this moment, I understand, and when I say I understand, she shouldn't, she kind of, in my opinion, sometimes pushes it a little bit too hard, right, for her age. And that's what, I've repeatedly, sometimes, something as little as like, oh, I'm washing a dish. She's like, I'm going to help you. And like, okay, I love you. And I really do. But, it's part of the narrative here that's kind of difficult for me to address because I've been trying to be tactful about it. But when it comes down to it, like, how do I put it? Psychology, I'm very conscious of folk psychology. And I think that my father's up in her ear. I think that she, quite frankly, feels like, what's the best way to say it? A little bit, well, I think, first of all, I think she was really happy to have the company. That's actually the main first thing, right? But then the other thing is that I think it makes her feel kind of better about herself, to say that, like, oh, well, you need my help, and that's the thing, I'll be honest, she's definitely, like, feeling like she needs to monitor me from the beginning, which is really fucking ironic, because she has no idea what's been going on. Like, I'm not claiming that, right? She got offended when I kind of told her, our whole family's a little bit confused, and she's like, you're calling me confused, and it's like, no, I'm actually not. I'm saying our entire family factually is confused about what the fuck has actually just happened here. And I'll be honest, they're clinging to their, kind of politics, which is kind of horrible in this context. In this case, I got up to this house. Look at, how muddy and kind of gross this is. I'm just using this to cover the plate for a moment. For us to ever, pretend like this could have been okay, I think that's what bothers me. It was not my opinion. I was never claiming, like, okay, this is unsafe. You know what I mean? This is objectively unsafe. Like, you're broadcasting my location of this vehicle, which is it the most recognizable vehicle? Not in my opinion, right? I really mean not in my opinion. But I will say that, to be honest with you, I guess that's the thing, any vehicle can be recognizable, especially when you're allowing something like this to go on. Any vehicle. And if you're broadcasting somebody's location on a map, which they factually were, nobody can go back and delete that. Nobody can go back and pretend that was not occurring. That factually had been occurring. And it's like, oh my God, talk about a feeding frenzy. Talk about safety risks, y'all. It's like, again, I'm emphasizing, you got criminal psychopaths that have a known history of violence, like Michael Brumback. Wait a minute, does he have a known history? Yes, he does, actually, y'all. I don't know if you knew that. He's got a known history of severe mental health issues and a known history of violence. The man has gotten violent on more than one occasion when his temper, is raised. And I mean, well, why do you think he and Jess broke up? What was Dan Steiner saying to him at the time? Well, Jess is scared of you. Yeah, Jess is scared of you. Like, he didn't even know that Michael was telling me severely, suffering from drug and alcohol addiction. Like, for us to sit around and like, no, we trust Michael even that well because he's like a psychopath suddenly decided to be a violent fucking boogaloo boy and get a gun and go visit his, narcotics dealer in prison, jail, sorry, and then also on top of that, y'all, like, to be in contact with those two people as they're sitting around on their porch smoking weed all day, every day, selling what Sam told me, literally, he's buying 2 ounces a week and he's selling 1 ounce and they're smoking the other ounce every single week. Well, in that apartment complex, I'll bring up the map again later, yo. We had a DEA agent right across the hall from them up a floor. He's smelling that every day. Like, Jesus Christ, talk about public corruption and culture wars, y'all. They had multiple actual narcotics dealers right around there, right in the, literally closer to them physically than I am in both cases, with Crystal and with Sam and Michael from Ghana. And that's where it's just like, wow, that is actually so fucking evil. Then you're like, oh no, we hate this guy because, you know, why? You know, there is no reason other than they found my podcast, my music. They know I was investigating the family. You know, I was giving lectures on the family, and then they knew that there was equipment in that place, which actually makes it so much worse in a way, that they were planning on, you know, well, trying to delete that equipment's existence when that equipment actually asserts that this has been some straight up public corruption. There's no other way to say it, you know, like, and I don't, how do I put it best? From the very beginning of this has been public corruption. Why anyone was ever okay with that for a moment, you know, I'll be honest, y'all, it does. Every single moment anybody out there in this country, the United States of America, of course, any moment that any of you cling to trying to act like this was not some straight up public corruption, like you don't realize how evil. You don't realize how evil that is. You know, anybody that's monitoring me, you know, you need to accept, like, I am and have been telling the truth. You don't get to sit around like, oh, well, that was really evil and horrible what they did to you, so now we want to help them. Like, what the hell, y'all? Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm the most peaceful and patient person through and through. And I'll be honest, you know, like that loud bike, you know, is that, no, I'm not saying it at all for a moment, but I will, y'all. DEA, they run around, they're giant fucking loud trucks, they're motorcycles that are loud as fuck, you know, it's just like, and then I got this little 4-cylinder sedan that, again, I'm saying, y'all, it's like, I'll be honest, we can argue about numbers, but you will lose every single time. I would never have missed a payment on this vehicle to, well, my family, who already paid for the vehicle, you know, and that's what's so complicated, y'all. You know, familial dispute, you don't get to turn around and be like, oh, no, well, we're going to subject you to modern slavery because your name is on the title, which means legally you are the owner of this vehicle, and nothing else, y'all. There's nothing else to be said. Like, actually, that's it. You understand? But at this point, because of the contention on this car, let me emphasize this, y'all. I will obviously own another car someday, but I'm not kidding. With this car, I don't, you know, I'm not even like, honestly, y'all, I'm probably going to figure out how to sell it as quickly as possible here. If I could, really, you know, that's the main thing is, you know, to be honest with you, my parents are legally liable. They're so liable for this entire situation, and they're criminally liable, to emphasize. And, you know, putting my location publicly on a map the way that they did, they're not just putting my safety at risk repeatedly. They're putting everyone's safety at risk repeatedly, because we do have real problems with nut jobs out there, actual nut jobs in this society. Never have I been one of them. Never will I be one of them in any way. You know, we sat around terrorizing one innocent man as he's doing his very technical job, and everybody's laughing their butts off like it's the funniest thing in the world. You all look like the most despicably evil fucking people right now. Accurately, y'all, to emphasize. You know, it's not even manipulation what I'm putting out there and presenting. It's just the objective truth. Like, you are despicably evil. Any of you that wanted to act like this was ever okay for a moment, it's not okay, y'all. It's fucking modern slavery. You know, you see the damage and the scars you're doing to an American family to try to act like that shit was acceptable, you know. And then, I'm sorry, you know, to my 2 consensual viewers here, I appreciate you obeying the law. And, you know, quite frankly, you know, like, I appreciate anyone's company that is following the rules. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. See, I'm going to be kind of polite, like I just waved to those people. I'm a kind and polite person, y'all, and it's not pandering, right? It's like, so many people hate my living guts right now, and they have no right to do so. I'm the kind of person, if you're just a complete fucking asshole to me for so goddamn long, well, quite frankly, there's a breaking point. And we passed that breaking point like over 2 years ago, for real, y'all. It's like, and when I say breaking point, I just mean, no, I'm not going to ever lash out. I'm never going to take any kind of, quote, retribution. All I've done is communicate. All I will ever do is communicate and defend the truth, protect myself. And now it's not even about protecting myself. That's the point. Because every single moment we remain focused on me means pushing the real violent criminals back out into the state of Texas and beyond. Really, y'all. So let me set this for a moment. And I mean it when I say I don't even think, that handstands in and of themselves are that impressive personally. Like, I'm not saying that, I mean that anybody can do it. That's my point. And it takes work, it takes a lot of actual discipline and work to get up to the point where you can do a handstand the way that, myself and others can do. But that's the thing. Obviously, I'm not the only person that can do handstands, and I guess it kind of more than hurts my feelings, the way that I've just been so diminished, flattened to simple, just like straight up fraudulent psychopathic lies about me as a human being, like I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna pick up, back on some of it. It might be probably 10-15 minutes. Actually, I need to check my grandmother, so I probably might be 30 minutes until I'm back online, but thanks for joining, y'all. I really appreciate it. Please remember, I'm a good person through and through. I really mean it, y'all. This has actually been a massive federal public corruption case, and there's so much continued illegal psychopathic lies being told about me. I'm not saying that lies are normally illegal, but they are illegal when you're lying to law enforcement, They are illegal, and these people have lied over and over and over again. This tree did not fall down naturally. That's just one example of many that I'm going to continue documenting. So I appreciate if you follow the rules, y'all. But I can't force anybody to do so. And other than that, you're always welcome in my streams and my content, y'all. Which I really hope, let me emphasize, this is not the way that I want it to really start, y'all. But I don't really have, and I know, I'm not trying to say y'all so much. I'm not trying to sound, I know, it's in me when I first started hearing that word, y'all. I was like, I just said it again, dang it. I was like, these, I wasn't judging. I was just kind of like, man, that word, I always said you guys, even if it was, is multi-gender, right? Like, I've just, it's part of my dialect at this point, I guess. I probably say it too much right now, and I'll probably stop saying it as much as I do, but I'll be back online in a bit. Thanks for joining if you did. My content will change as time goes on. That I can promise. I'd rather focus on other things, quite frankly.